I got to hang out with Phil Woods a little bit when I was in high school. He was a guest at my high school, and he was totally my biggest alto idol, like at that time. And Wynton notices that Chick is still standing right there watching the whole time, so he invited Chick to come on and play with us. If I could have told, 10-year-old Alexa that it was actually possible to, make a living, like to survive being a saxophonist, that's insane.
That was composer, educator, and jazz saxophonist Alexa Tarantino. And this is Music and Artists, a show for and about musicians. Alexa Tarantino.
Hey, Mark.
Welcome to Music and Artists.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Honestly, it's an honor to have you here. We've been, so fortunate to get to interview so many great artists, but you might be one of the youngest and most talented that we've had the opportunity to sit down with. So this is a really cool experience.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. You guys are so awesome. The whole team is amazing, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of it.
So you're Eastman grad, Juilliard grad, two of maybe the most prestigious music schools in the world, arguably. Let's talk about the path to those two very prestigious institutions. What was your initial music education like growing up?
Well, I grew up in a non-musical family. I always like to say that first, because I remember when I decided at a really young age that I wanted to take music really seriously and be a professional musician. A lot of people that I ended up being sort of peers and colleagues with came from musical families. So I had a very different experience, and I'm really grateful for that experience because I think it made me a little more well-rounded, and I had to sort of chart my own path. And my parents were super supportive. They got me a saxophone as soon as I saw somebody play, as soon as I saw a young woman play, actually, at my local high school. I was in, I think, 5th grade or 4th grade, maybe 3rd grade.
Wow.
Because at that time, they started you on an instrument in 4th grade, which might be like 9 years old. So we went to check out the local high school jazz band play in West Hartford, Connecticut at Hall High School, which, unbeknownst to my parents, just was an amazing community for jazz and music education. And the high school in particular was really awarded and celebrated nationally, recognized nationally for their jazz education programs. But my parents obviously had no idea that I would want to be a jazz musician at that time. So I saw this young woman play a beautiful solo on stage, and which is pretty cool because also a lot of people, one of their first comments is, oh, you don't see a lot of, females playing saxophone,
True.
Young women playing saxophone. But to me, it was like, nothing. It was just a no-brainer that I just totally loved it. And so from that moment on, it was, lessons and early morning band practices, and jazz band started in 4th grade, 5th grade. Wow. So I started right away with jazz, which I think is also very different. And I started on saxophone, not on clarinet or anything like that. I did also start on piano because my paternal grandmother, she used to play piano on the radio to help kind of support her family. That's where I feel like I got the bug. And my music teachers were really the biggest inspirations. I had incredible general music instruction. We were talking behind the scenes for the B-roll about solfege, right? Mm-hmm. And so developing ear training and an understanding of just singing do, re, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. Just those early fundamentals, that's what really developed my ears and my sort of general pitch and ability to hear music in my head and just sing songs around the house. So that early general music instruction was really super important, learning songs by ear, rote songs, and singing and assigning, those solfege syllables and really developing more of a larger understanding of how music works. And so then picking up the instrument, transitioning that ear method, that learning by ear method, just to, okay, now I have to kind of this means this note, this means this note, let me move it from here. It really opened up a whole world. Once I started playing saxophone, I just felt like I could play whatever I was singing, had been singing around the house, or whatever I was hearing in my head. And then just playing with other people, that was a huge thing too. You know, even at 5th grade, you can squeak and squawk all you want, but if you're playing with other people, it's like, yeah, we got this. It really was just so lucky to have those teachers. And then as I got older, auditioning for the different, you know, local bands, national jazz bands, whatever it was. And that high school jazz band I was a part of, and those teachers were huge because they challenged us in the best ways. You know, we had 8-hour rehearsals on Saturdays for this show that we would do in the spring. We went to New York to compete in a national festival at Jazz at Lincoln Center, which then later on has become basically one of the biggest parts of my life.
Yeah, one of your homes.
Yeah.
Right.
So just having that love for a communal mission, a group mission and concept, and a common goal that you're all working together towards, that became a big thing, the big thing for me. You could even take the saxophone away, and I would just say that like the main quality that music educators instilled was, you know, being able to work together with other people and hear other people and support other people. So I'm pretty big on that.
In your personal opinion, what is a common mistake that you see, or maybe, you know, one of the biggest mistakes that you see music educators make?
First thing I'll say is huge shout out to all the music educators, because it's not easy. And I went down that path as a music education major as well. And I did my student teaching time and spent time, you know, with all day in the schools like that. I really applaud each and every one of them, because it's such an amazing role to play in somebody's life. And when I got a glimpse of that, I definitely caught that bug. And I loved the performing and touring lifestyle. So I personally decided that I wanted to have kind of a hybrid of being able to tour and perform, but be really like an artist in residence, or really make an impact teaching in other ways. So I would say, instead of using the word mistake, I would say like something I would suggest or I would encourage is to let the student make the mistake, let the student hear the wrong note, let the student figure out the right, you know, note or whatever it is that we're going for.
Sure.
As opposed to saying like, oh, you know, press this button and you get this note. So, and that kind of goes back to what I was just saying about learning by ear, or singing before they play, as opposed to saying like, this is a C, this is a D, move your finger this way, that's not the right note. You know, let them hear that it doesn't fit in what they were doing, because that's what develops that discernment in their ear and that's where they get that self-correction skill, which is really important, because after a while, you know, the teacher's not going to be sitting with them in the band room the whole time. They're going to be up on front or on the side. So for students to develop the ability to self-correct is really important. And then also to lead and guide their neighbors, you know, in the band and help out in the same way. And also to develop the ability to ask for help is really important. So I think teachers can often take on like the whole responsibility of the minutia and the nitty gritty. And I would say I'd rather have some students playing wrong notes or wrong rhythms, but noticing that and being able to correct that, or being able to helpfully suggest and help their neighbor, or being able to, you know, ask for help and develop that sort of peer and colleague support is super important, because those are the students they're going to, if they continue into music, they're going to run into them and run into each other for the rest of their lives. I have, you know, friends from elementary school, middle school, high school music programs that I work with all the time. My husband and I met at summer jazz camp. So it's to develop those skills that help to create great people and great communicators and great like citizens of the community on the band level are really exciting and I think very important.
So when you were a student, obviously you've had multiple mentors in your life, right? During your process, was there something that was said to you or something that you very vividly remember that you're like, oh yeah, that was a turning point?
Oh, absolutely. Every year at Jazz Lincoln Center, we host an amazing festival and competition called the Essentially Ellington Festival. And it's students from all over the country compete and are, you know, recognized in learning and performing the music of Duke Ellington, which is just a huge library of repertoire that really speaks to all the qualities I was just talking about. Working together as a team, rhythm section, for example, like working together as a team and guiding the band, and then horns, like having that personality and being able to speak up, in your solo, all these like qualities that we see in daily, human life and humanity that come to fruition in the context of a jazz ensemble. So it's like we're celebrating these young people and then developing, young leadership skills, and then of course artistic skills and understanding the fundamentals and the most important qualities in jazz, blues, swing, improvisation, and so on. I was there as a high schooler with the Hall High School Concert Jazz Band. I remember our amazing band directors, Haig Shaverdian and John Mastriani, who were just two of the most influential people for me through that high school period, learning jazz and jazz vocabulary and going out to gigs and going to see the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra play on Monday nights in New York. Just getting all that real nitty-gritty experience. Mm-hmm. We were there at the festival competing, and it wasn't, I don't think we didn't expect to win necessarily, but I just felt like I was in heaven, just meeting all these other students who were like-minded and who were just as passionate about the music and about the common goal and about jazz and saxophone as I was. I remember we used to have weekend saxophone sectionals. So I was the second alto player for a while, and then I also moved to play lead alto in the high school band. And that felt like the big gig, at that time. It was like, oh my gosh. But even when I was a second alto player, I remember I was kind of like the straw boss is like a term that they used to use like in Duke's band and in the bands of back in the day. That's like the person who maybe wasn't like the main leader or like the boss, but was kind of like the next person there who was kind of like making things happen behind the scenes.
Right.
So I'd always like have the 4 guys in the section and me and have them come over on like a Sunday afternoon, and I'd make a bunch of brownies to entice them to come over and then rehearse and practice the solis for like 3 hours, to just be around 100 other high school students around the country who were doing that same thing.
Right.
Was so amazing. And I realized like, wow, there are other people like me that are this serious about it, and this person's like amazing at this. Let me ask them about that. How do they do that? Or this section sounded amazing on this. Like, how did they do that? It was finding your place in the music, but also recognizing, there are people you can learn from that are your peers. Somebody else knows something that you don't, or maybe you can help somebody with something else. I was sold right then and there. I was like, I just want to climb and keep going and grow.
So you think then your big turning point, or the thing that was an aha moment for you was just getting to experience people your own age that celebrated that same love and that same level of commitment to the music.
Yeah, absolutely. And realizing that it wasn't just like on a micro level of like my high school being a unique thing. It was like, wow, if we all stick together, like we got this. This is crazy. Like we can really do this. It's really possible. There's an infrastructure for this, or like we can develop this infrastructure, for people our age really loving this music, because it's not quite, the everyday thing for a high schooler to be into. You think a high schooler wants to be on the football team, or wants to be a cheerleader, or wants to be maybe, I don't know, in the whatever club. For all of us to be there and really championing something, this music that was born so many years ago,
right,
but is still so relevant and important and necessary today, and allowing us to express ourselves while also respecting what happened and came before us. It's just a very special art form. So anytime that I meet, even an elementary school or middle school or high schooler, I try to, encourage them, check out. They say, oh, I listened to you on Spotify, or I but I'm always saying like, check out Lester Young, right. Check out Duke Ellington's orchestra, like check out Benny Carter, check out, because that's who we all are going back to.
So recently we got the opportunity to interview Grayson DeKruitman, 21 years old, big up and coming jazz drummer. I don't want to pigeonhole Grayson as being a jazz drummer, because he's obviously a lot more than that, but he rose to prominence on social media by playing all these big band tunes and playing them with such ferocity and energy that he had a huge following. And I remember saying to him, I said, that I think is really unique to make jazz cool to teenagers, right? I see you doing a lot of the same things with the Cape Ann Jazz Workshop, with Jazz at Lincoln Center Youth. I'm just curious as to what keeps you motivated to keep pursuing music education, especially in the jazz sphere.
Yeah, it's the thing that I think gives back, the most. I mean, performing and recording is so exciting and thrilling, and you make an impact on the audience, perhaps, on the community that you visit, on the listeners, we hope, positive impact. But I just remember for me as a young student, the teachers had the most impact. It was the people that I spent time with, that I asked questions, that kicked my butt, that told it to me straight. And I still have those mentors. Wynton Marsalis is one of those people for me, Ted Nash, Sherman Irby, Victor Goines. They're still like that for me. I value that kind of, I'm sort of like in between, right? I'm so grateful that I'm still able to be sort of the student to mentors like them, but then I'm also able to help the people who are coming up and just starting, because I was there not that long ago. Sure. And it's so funny that you mentioned Grayson, because I taught Grayson at the Jazz at Lincoln Center High School Jazz Academy when he was there in New York. Yeah. So, and he was so great. We used to just have a blast. I was conducting, I think, one of the big bands, but then I worked with him more in smaller groups or some of the kind of classes for students who were going to college and stuff like that. And yeah, it's so exciting to see where people go. I always say to, my friends who teach like private lessons and things like that, they're like, oh, I'm going to go teach a private lesson. You just never know the impact that you could have on somebody based on, you don't know what's going on in their day. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It just makes a huge difference. I think that's the biggest thing. Like people say, what would you do if you couldn't play saxophone? I'd say I'd probably teach. Ideally, I would love to be able to teach while demonstrating on saxophone. But if for some reason I couldn't play saxophone, I think I would still be some type of teacher, because you get something while you're giving as well. Like you get to see people grow, you get that reaction, you get kind of that light bulb moment, and that's very inspiring to you. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
If you could give one piece of advice to an aspiring musician, maybe they just started fourth grade band, maybe they're picking up a sax or any instrument for that matter for the first time, what would be that piece of advice?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to ask questions. I was in a lot of situations where I felt like I was sort of maybe the youngest or the newest in the room. And sometimes I would feel hesitant to ask questions. And I would think, oh, maybe that's a silly question, or maybe, it's embarrassing. And I wish I had felt more, comfortable and taken a bit more charge in those moments, like of my own education. Like, I'm here. I want to learn this. Yes. I want my question, I want to know. And eventually I got there, but I think in the early days, or when you're in a situation where you're really nervous about being the one who's going to fumble or the one who's going to show that they don't know this, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, everybody has something that they don't know. And that's right. We all just have to let it rip and be comfortable with that.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you as a performer, right? Chick Corea, Randy Brecker, Wynton Marsalis, John Patitucci. I could literally list Peter Erskine. These are undisputed legends in not only in jazz, but in the music world in general. Have you personally ever had that feeling of imposter syndrome, or, oh my gosh, look who I'm sitting across from?
Yes, like every day.
Okay.
I mean, on the way here, I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is crazy. Every single day, I'm like, wow. And I'm also like, don't mess up. Oh. But it's good. I'm like I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the whole wide world, honestly. I mean, if I could have told 10-year-old Alexa that it was actually possible to make a living, like to survive being a saxophonist, that's insane. And then also to just be so fulfilled and supported and have this incredible community of all those amazing people that you mentioned and more, cheering you on and challenging you. And it's the coolest thing ever. So yeah, I don't know what else to say, but there's just like so much joy and gratitude. And I really think that it's obviously not easy. It's not an easy lifestyle, and it's not an easy path. And I think, there are people who told me that from the beginning, and I was like, okay, like, okay, but we got this. Like, we're going to make it, you just make it happen. For anybody in any field, it's like, if you want something that badly, like you will make it happen.
Out of all of those people that we talked about, all those huge legends and icons in jazz, do you have one project, one gig that you are like, oh yeah, this is the one I'm going to remember for the rest? Or if you have several, that's fine, obviously, but is there one that really stands out as being, yeah, this is special?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll mention two of the names that you listed, Wynton Marsalis and Chick Corea. So we actually did a combined tour of Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis and Chick Corea, featuring Chick Corea, playing the music of Thelonious Monk. It was so cool. It was just like, I felt like I was in high school again, just like looking at, watching things happen, before me. I remember first we did it. It was just maybe a 2 or 3 week run with the full orchestra and Chick. And so we did kind of a Northeast run. We prepped all the music in New York as we usually do, and then, hit the tour. And he was just so great. I remember one of the first shows we did in Rose Hall at Jazz at Lincoln Center. I had a solo. I was like, I think it was on the last song, Rhythmaning, which is sort of a medium fast rhythm changes. And I think it was maybe the last of the concert. And so I was really nervous because I was like, oh my God, all these amazing musicians have already played and I have to, play on the last song. I'm like, ah. And so I just tried to like get in the zone and be in the zone. And I remember I was playing a solo, and then Victor Goines, another mentor of mine, and was going to come over and take over after me. And I don't know exactly how it happened, but like when he started to come on, I kind of looked at him and he kind of looked at me, and we just decided that we were going to play together for a bit. And it was like spontaneous. And that kind of stuff doesn't always happen, because sometimes it just doesn't work in the context of the flow of things. Because, when you've got that many people on stage, it's not the same as always as a small group. But the best part about playing in that band is that you can go from small group to big band from 1 second to the next. And it's just like, bam. So in that moment, we kind of were like in that small group flexibility phase. And Victor and I played together for a while, and Chick was right there, right behind us on the piano. And it was just so cool. And a couple months later, in the summer of that year, that might have been like 2019 or 2018 or something. Summer of that year, I was in France with Wynton for his septet. He plays in Marciac at the Marciac Jazz Festival. It's called Jazz in Marciac every summer. So I was there, and Chick was also playing the same night. So it was his Spanish Heart Band and the septet, both a double bill.
Okay.
So we watched his first set. In Europe, everything starts super late, right? So it was they probably went on at 9, and we were supposed to maybe go on at 11 or something. So then he stuck around for our set. We played our set, probably ending at like 12:30. And of course, in Europe, there's like multiple encores, right? So we do one encore, we do another encore. And Wynton notices that Chick is still standing right there watching the whole time. So he invited Chick to come on and play with us. So Chick had been there probably for like 7 hours at this point, like between being there and getting ready and then doing his show and then watching ours. So he played with us a couple more encores, and it was just so cool. It was incredible, because I was sitting there in the front row, with Wynton and then Chick, and we played a blues and I think another tune of Wynton's, and it was just amazing. And he played with, our pianist, Isaiah Thompson, and it was something I'll always remember. And Wynton talks about it all the time on stage, just that willingness and that like youthfulness that all these amazing legends that we look up to have. They want to learn, they want to check out what's going on in like those group, whatever's on stage next. They want to check it out. They want to support you. They want to play with you.
Mm-hmm.
They'll stay out till 1. It's like, that's the vibe.
I was thinking about this morning. I wanted to ask you, because you have spent so much of your career playing jazz music. What is your one biggest earworm for a standard that once you hear it that day, it gets stuck in your head and it's there permanently?
I think honestly, like any bird tune,
Oh, okay.
I will sing those all day long. So if I hear like a little bit of it, I'm just like all day long.
For me, I think it's St. Thomas. If I hear St. Thomas once, it's like the next 72 hours is nothing but St. Thomas playing on a loop.
That's a really good one.
You are a multi-instrumentalist. I would say you double, but you more than double, right? So you play alto, you play flute, you're an accomplished clarinetist. You play all these instruments. I know that you are a Vandoren artist. You exclusively play their reeds and their ligatures. I'm just curious as to why Vandoren.
I started playing Vandoren right off the bat. It was the first reed that I picked up, to play saxophone. So it was never really a question of playing anything else. I always felt like I could rely on them. So I remember, actually, I do have one good story that I'll share. I mean, I think I probably played their blue box reeds starting out because that's kind of a common starting point for students. But I mean, it's also amazing just all the time. A lot of my friends play blue box and my mentors and idols. The reason that I switched from playing blue box to playing their ZZ reeds, which is like the black box, so it's sort of the red, orange, yellow ZZs. Mm-hmm. I guess like jazz.
The jazz reed, yeah. For sure. So
I got to hang around with Phil Woods a little bit when I was in high school. He was a guest at my high school, and he was totally my biggest alto idol, like at that time. And so I was the person that like kind of, got him from his car and like helped him in, and you just hung out with him in the green room and just listened to his stories and got him food and whatever he needed, which was a huge gift. And he was getting ready for the show, and he was trying some reeds, and he, I think, had maybe blown out a reed, and he was trying a new one. So he took the old one and like threw it away, and then took the new one and opened the wrapper, threw it away, and tried the new one, and just, and it was like perfect.
As Phil Woods does.
Stage. He was like, they're like, okay, Mr. Woods, we're ready for you. So he walks on stage, and I look in that trash can, and I was like, I'm holding on to this forever. And I don't know that I still have that reed, that old reed of his. I moved so many times. I'm like, gosh, I wish I had taken better care of it, but it was with me for like 5 years at least. So I started playing those, and that was a done deal. But I mean, I play, mouthpieces, ligatures, reeds, neck strap, everything is all Vandoren, and it's always just been so reliable. I love the flexibility and the sound that I get, and I can have the same setup on alto and soprano, and if I play some tenor, I can do that. It's great, and it's such an amazing family. I mean, I'm all about family and community and good vibes, and so, like the small kind of family vibe that we all have is so amazing, and their support's incredible, so I'm very grateful to them.
Honestly, Alexa, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sitting down with Music and Artists today. We really appreciate you spending time with us, and we wish you the best of luck with everything in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks again to Alexa for the conversation. We really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll endeavor to make more just like it. Oh, I'm late for a meeting. Oh, and read us out.
This episode was produced by Ian Scott Pullins, Mark Gothier, and Owen Rye. Special thanks to Newspire Arts. Music and Artists is presented by your source for instruments, lessons, rentals, and repairs. Music and Arts. Musicians made here.